Welcome back to the Serendipity Mind podcast. I'm your host, Danang.
And I'm your co-host, Crystal.
For today's episode, I wanted to start this episode off with a question that I too will answer, and I hope that you'll answer. And I hope that listeners will also think about and give us an answer. This question is, what is the most underrated aspect of life that people should appreciate more?
Oh.
Yeah.
What a unique question.
Yep.
What is the most underrated aspect of life?
That should be appreciated more.
Time. I know people say it all the time. You see it in movies. You see it. You see it in, I don't know, like different podcasts. You talk about it in real life. But based off of my experience, it is time. Time is the most unappreciated aspect of life. And I feel that just in my circumstance, I didn't get enough time with my loved ones. That like now going through this part of life, I wish I had more time so that I could enjoy those moments with them so much more.
Yeah. I think when it comes to time is so, you don't really think about it until it's like too late.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as kids, it's not a concept that is made aware. Not like in your later 20s and 30s, right? When you're in your later 20s and 30s, I think time becomes this thing of like nostalgia in a way, where it's like you look back on your past, you look back on moments with people. You could be sitting in a room with someone that you grew up with and time hits you and you look at them and you're like, wow, you're not the 12-year-old person that I knew. You're this beautiful human being that is going off into the world and doing their own thing. And it's like, where did the time go? Like a whole decade has gone by and you're like, God damn.
Yeah. Especially having little children in our lives. You see that you see that a year has gone by so quickly, and you think about how you wish you had more time to be with them, or like, for example, us. We've been together almost 11 years. It will be 11 years soon. And I think about what has happened so much in those 11 years, and I'm like, man, I wish we had more time to do this, or I wish we had more time to explore this. Yeah, I don't know. Like for me, I just feel like time. I get so sad when I think about it, honestly. And I try not to cry because I think about like my dad not being here.
Yeah.
And
because,
then,
the thing that I think the thing that a lot of people don't think about when it comes to time is the moments within time. Very specific moments. When you look back at those moments and you're like, you wish you could go back. You wish you could just be in that moment. You wish you could rewind and replay those 5 minutes over and over and over and over. And just listen to someone speak or listen to someone say something over and over. And I think that's what time is when you get older, right? It's the withering moments that we wish we could have had. And I think that's what time ultimately is. Time, we can't go and get it back. Time is something that constantly moves forward. And as we get older, we understand that. We understand that time only moves forward. And because it moves forward, every time we look backwards, it disappears more and more into the distance, because the only way through life is forward, and we can't keep going back. And we're going to miss those. We miss those moments. We miss those periods in our life where, as people, we look at it and we're like, as kids, as teens, as young adults, we look at those moments and we say, "I was so annoying." We look at those moments and we say, "God, I wish that you would have just hurried up." And then you get to our age and you look back and now you're like, damn.
Sorry, I'm crying. I just like, as you're like speaking, like I got so emotional because sorry.
You got emotional because the moments that existed when you were a kid, you didn't understand. And now as an adult, you do understand. And the memories are slowly fading.
Yeah.
And all you want to do is go back and try to remember every bit of those memories, every little detail. The smell, voices, anything that you can grab a hold of in that moment. But we're getting older, and as time moves forward, we slowly forget too.
And I feel like I'm going through therapy as you say it, because I'm like, I can't even remember what my dad sounds like.
Yeah.
I don't know what he would have looked like.
But
it's just painful. Sorry.
No, it's okay, right? Because it's okay, because I think that's inevitable. Not everyone goes through life remembering, right? That's not how it works. You can't. Eventually, you're gonna forget. For me, your dad played such a pivotal role in my life. I only remember the words that he said to me because of how much they meant to me. But even then, like you, I don't remember his voice. I don't remember I'm slowly forgetting how he looked. But that's why, for me, it's okay. Because you and your sister have done so much in your life in the last 10 years that I think as long as you continue to move forward, as long as you continue to develop in your life and not forget what he would have wanted, that you'll always live with that and he'll always be a part of that. And that's okay. Even for me, I grew up with my mom and my dad not having parents. They lost both their parents in their 20s. To me, that's crazy because I'm 32 and I can't have imagined my parents not being in my life. You know what I mean? And you're in your 20s and you don't have a dad. So it's like you understand very well. And when I listen to my mom and my dad speak about their parents, I see the child in both of them start crying. When my mom starts talking about her parents to me, and she starts smiling when she speaks about them. And my dad starts choking up when he speaks about my grandpa. And it's okay. it's okay because when I look at my mom and my dad, they're literally the essence of their parents. And when I look at my parents, I also see my grandparents. It's the same way when I look at you and your sister, I see your dad. Because you guys have lived your life so well in that essence. You guys have taken what he would have wanted, and then you guys have done something so much better. So for me, I'm like, oh, like, yeah, your dad's gone, but he's not really gone. Like, when I look at you and your sister, I always think about your dad. I always think about your dad. And it's the same with my parents, right? I look at my dad and I always see my grandpa. I look at my mom, I see my grandfather on that side. Like I always talk about the same memory with my mom. And my mom and I, we love talking about that memory. Because it's the only memory I have of my grandfather. Of my grandfather smoking a fucking bamboo bong and me hearing the water bubble. And I'm like a kid. And I tell my mom that story all the time, and she always starts laughing. And it's just like, it's moments like that where I think, like you said, time is so underappreciated. We don't appreciate the time that we have until it's almost too late, or it is too late. And I think that's why I'm so grateful that you brought it up, because for those that listen and have the opportunity to still be with your parents, still be with the people that you love, and still have friendships or relationships that you care about, don't fucking waste that time. Like, you don't know. And it sounds so goddamn cliche. Everyone says it. But I'm saying it as someone who has lost many people, and I've seen these people suffer, and have seen these people, seen their hearts break every time they talk about them. You don't need to wait. While you still have the opportunity to be there with them and have these conversations with them and enjoy their presence and enjoy their company, do it. Because one day you will not have that time anymore. And one day you're going to be sitting here, you're going to be sitting there and saying, you wish you had time. Yeah.
The question is so simple, but when you bring up a topic like time, it brings so much emotions because we take it for granted every single day. Every single day we take time for granted. But when you think about how, like our niece, she's going to be a years old. She's going to be 1 soon. But like in that time, she's grown up so quickly in a year. And, our parents always say, like, enjoy this time you have with your children before they grow up.
You hear it and you almost like disregard it every time.
Yeah.
But then you get to a point in your life where you finally find people that you really, really love and you really, really care for. And that phrase there becomes a mantra. It becomes this one thing that you say over and over and over, because that time you will never get again.
It's a scary truth. It is genuinely a scary truth because it doesn't have to be in like, the average age of, when we're growing older. It could be tomorrow. It could be a few minutes from now. It could be a couple hours from now. You don't know when, because you might not see this person anymore. You might not be able to hear them. You might not feel their hug, their kisses, their I love yous, or like calling them and be like, hey, like, can we talk? I'm just not feeling good today. I just need somebody to cheer me up.
Yeah. Time is one of those things that it diminishes very quickly and you don't realize it. And as it diminishes, pieces of you also diminish with it. Pieces of your heart diminish with it because it's the only way to almost hold it, to hold those memories. It's almost like you hold on so tight that as as pieces of those memories start disappearing, pieces of you also start disappearing because you're trying to hold on to it so hard. So while you have the time to be with people that you love and people that you care for, go and be with them. Go and say you love them. I'm 30.
You're turning 33, so you're 32.
Yeah, I'm 32, and I'll say this, right? I'm 32, and I have my parents are not your traditional like Asian parents. My dad is very my dad cares for if my dad cares for you, he'll check up on you all the time. And my mom is one of those people who through action she loves and cares for you. But for the first time in a long time, I told my mom I loved her. And it's moments like that where you're like, I'm going to remember that when my mom passes.
Stop, your parents are still young.
Oh, no, I'm saying like in general, right? It's like...
Yeah, no, but I know what you're talking about because it's like a core memory. It's like a key memory you're going to have when you get older and they're no longer here on this earth with us.
Because like for me, like with your baby sister, it's like the fact that she still says I love you to me, she still hugs me, she still holds me. These are my core memories right now, because I know that one day those will disappear. And like with your middle sister, like a lot of my core memories with her have disappeared, and I do my best to be there and support her and give her love, but the core memories of those emotional moments that you have with them, the physical hugs, the I love yous, the you'll be okay, they disappear. And there are days where like you look at time and you're like, fuck, I wish in the moment I could have soaked in it a bit more, enjoyed it a bit more, been with them a bit more, given them a bit more. But that's how time works. And it's cool to reminisce, it's cool to do all that, but the only way through is forward, and that's how we move. And with those that you lose in your life, those that have become a loss in your life, you live the best that you can with the ethics, the morals that they have given you, and you live with that. And that's how you almost like keep them there with you, the last bit of them that you still remember. Because we will eventually forget their face. We will eventually forget how they sound like, what their smell is like. That is within human cognition to forget. But the one thing that you will not forget is everything that they taught you. Because you are literally everything that they taught you. You are the living embodiment of the teachings that they left behind. And if you can continue to do that, you live with their essence, and their essence lives within you. When it comes to like time, right? Like time and death. For me, that's what I would have picked. But time and death go side by side. Like death also plays into time. It's very underappreciated. But I think through death, we learn so much. We learn so much about love. We learn so much about ourselves. We learn so much about life. And it was through death that I learned that life was unfair. It was through death that I learned how to love more. It was death that I learned how to protect. It was death that I learned everything that I am today. A lot of who I am and what I am has derived from my appreciation of death. Because I understand how beautiful it could be, but also how sad it is. You know, like, it's something that I've said to my mom and my dad, right, is no parent wants to see their child die before them. That is why I always say to my mom and my dad, I will not die before you guys. As your son, I will proudly, gladly watch you live your life and die. Because through death, you guys have lived the most amazing life. When you guys meet death, it'll be the most beautiful thing at that time. And it's almost like a very twisted way of looking at things. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people would never say that to their parents. Mm-hmm. But to me and my parents, when we talk about it, there was an understanding that everyone on the playground here, the playground of life, understands that my parents sacrificed for all their kids. So now it's the kids' responsibility to make sure that we give to our parents and make sure that they live the best life that they can with us, side by side. So that even as their kids develop families, do all that they'll never be alone. That they'll be a part of not just one family, not just the family that they created, but the families, the many kids that they have. And I think that's the beauty of death, is that understanding there, right? It's like, I understood because your dad taught me that, right? It was like, I'm very appreciative of what your dad taught me. And that appreciation I hold very dearly in my heart. You know, like, a lot of people don't have to bring in their partner's sisters or brothers and bring them into family gatherings that are not even a part of theirs. But I do it because your dad left behind a family, and I'm going to gift a family to them, so that this way, when they go and find a family of their own, they'll be gifted and surrounded by many families. And that is the beauty of death. That is what death taught me. And like I said, it intertwines with time. But I think death and time are very much so underappreciated, very much so not thought about often. Death is one of those things where it's like, a lot of people avoid that topic. It's very morbid.
Yeah, it's very morbid. There are some cultures that see death. Yes, the passing is sad, but it's like, oh, instead of thinking about them not being here, you should think about what they left behind, their legacy, their story for us to talk about for future generations. Yep. You know, death is one of those that is very related to, what's that saying? Like, you don't know what you got till it's gone. Like, yep. Because for us, death that's it. You won't get to see this person in this lifetime anymore. You won't get to physically hold their hand or hug them or sit down and have a meal or a conversation, and you will miss them and what they brought to the table in terms of like their presence, conversations. Yeah.
And I think that's why it's so beautiful, right? Like, when we think of death, we think of it as an end, but we don't ever see it as a beginning. It is through death that I hope, in this sense, right? It's like, for me, when my dad talks about my grandfather, he talks about my grandfather being a general. He talks about my grandfather sacrificing sacrificing his own time to make sure that his brothers and his sisters got married. My grandfather was married to 2 women, but both were best friends and both loved each other. And my grandfather didn't marry the second one for the reason that everyone thinks. He did it for her safety. He did it because she was in trouble. And he asked my grandmother first. And my grandmother said yes. And when I look at my dad, that's who I see. And that's what death gave us. Death gave us that connection. The same way that I hope that when people look at me, whether that's your sisters, or whether that's whoever, they'll see your dad, they'll see my dad, they'll see my grandfather. And I hold your dad very dearly in my heart because of what he's given me in my life. And that's why I live my life so connected to all of the words that he has ever given me in his lifetime. I only knew him for, like a year at that point? Yeah, I think it was only a year that I...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
So I only knew him for a year. But in that year, the conversations that we had taught me so much about life. And that's why I work so hard now. I work so hard so that when other people look at me, they'll see your dad. And that's how I want him to be remembered always. So that when I have kids and I talk to my kids about your dad, they'll be like, oh, we don't know Grandpa, but we know Grandpa. That's all I want. Because I didn't know my grandfathers either. But I know everything about my grandfathers. Because when I talk to my dad, it's the same thing. And it's the same way. Like when I talk to my kids, I hope that when my kids talk to me, they'll see their grandfathers and the hard work and the words of wisdom that made their father the man that I am. Yeah. We'll end the podcast here. Today was a good conversation. I think it was one that I saw this question a while back and I saved it. And I knew that it was going to garner a good conversation. Just didn't think it was going to be that good.
It's a bit of a heavy-hearted conversation. But it was a good conversation. I feel like we need to talk about this more and be open with it.
So, to all the listeners, I'd like to ask you guys one more time. What is the most underrated aspect of life that people should appreciate more? Think about it. If you guys have the time, comment it down. Let's talk. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. That's the beauty of being human. That is the beauty of life. Is the never-ending love for learning. So let's keep going. I'm your host, Danang.
And I'm your co-host, Crystal.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye, guys.